Back with another episode. We're going to talk about the big elephant in the room and how Adam Scheffner's job security and journalistic integrity are both at an all-time low. Live watching the Rams versus 49ers. Let's see if the 49ers can hold on and do it again. Jimmy Garoppolo right now got a better passer rating than Matthew Stafford. That's something I never thought I'd see. But hit the intro. We're going to get to it. What's up, world? This is the Up Watching Hawaii podcast. I'm Smurf.
And it's your guy, Cy, and we watch the games that you can't stay up to.
And we also watch the combat sports as well. We are hosted live in the SayLess podcast Discord server. Shout out to the SayLess podcast of Kaz, Lowkey, and Rosy.
And we are also affiliated with the Otaku Fight Club podcast, hosted by yours truly.
And we are also affiliated with the Sips Tea podcast, hosted by Genesis and C Saint, a rapper and a battle rapper out of Buffalo, New York. All the links to everything described here in the bottom of the description, and we'll get started with the show. That sports podcast, obviously the biggest elephant in the room as far as stuff that's happened since last episode is Adam Scheffner and sports media jumped the gun and jumped all the way out the fucking window, trying to say that Tom Brady's retired. Now they're saying he's retiring. Originally, they said Tom Brady has retired, which is just a whole different amount of statements. Because, when I saw it, the original two stories came out through Yahoo Sports and the Associated Press. And all they said was they have sources that are close to Tom Brady and within his camp that are saying that Tom Brady is debating whether or not he will retire. And that he's going through that process of figuring out what he wants to do. And that if he does retire, he will announce it sometime between Tuesday to Friday this week, because he doesn't want to take away from the conference championship games, nor does he want to take away from the Super Bowl warm-up, but he also doesn't want to wait till after the Super Bowl, which would hinder the Buccaneers from being able to make moves to move forward with things that they want to do. And so, someone decided to take that information and be like, oh, this guy's thinking about it. We'll find out on Tuesday through Thursday to be like, nah. Adam Schefter was like, nah, he's already done. It's over. He said he's out of here. And I'm going to be the first one to do it. This whole relationship when it comes to especially when it comes to the regular news, but I never thought you'd see it in the sports news where it'd be this sort of TMZ sort of bullshit going on where it's I just want to be first. I don't care if my story is fully correct. I just want to be first, be the first one to have the headline, get the clicks, so everybody comes to my page, yada, yada, yada. But it's bro, Adam Scheffner's whole journalistic integrity is just at an all-time low. And I think his job security is very low. If he gets fired from ESPN, this is it for him. Because for those who are not aware, Adam Scheffner was one of the people who got caught up in the scandal that was relating to the Washington football team, then the Redskins, and Daniel Snyder's leadership within there and the things that were going through. Basically, that during the midst of a lot of sexual assault allegations, basically Adam Scheffner was for his stories, basically not even writing his stories. Basically, he was allowing a NFL executive to write the stories about his organization and things that were coming out. Not even writing a story. Literally, that's what happened. He gave it to one of their GMs and executives, and the executive basically just wrote the paper and he gave it to him and be like, "Hey, run this as news." And then it's sort of one of those things where it's everything spiraled backwards because people went back into looking at, hey, Adam Scheffner, you was one of the biggest people putting out a lot of bullshit about what the players were doing and talking against us during the 2011 lockout. So now basically no players talking to him. Now his only sources and people who he's going to talk to is literally just these executives, and now doing this against arguably the GOAT. As far as best quarterback career, Tom Brady's the GOAT, without a doubt. You can't go against that. As far as talent wise, hey, you can throw some other people out there. You got the Marinos, the Vicks, the Mannings, but as far as overall careers and as far as NFL worship, you went against the GOAT, the king. And as they say, if you aim for the king, you better not miss. And ooh, he missed. And Adam Schefter, if once ESPN gets rid of him, he has nowhere to go. And this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Because I mean, we've already seen Tom Brady get a whole fucking radio correspondent fired, but that was also talking about Tom Brady's kid and called his daughter a pissant, which is mad disrespectful. I mean, I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but even I understand Tom Brady be like, hey, yeah, get that nigga the fuck up out of here. Take his job in sports radio. But people are looking at Tom Brady may or may not retire. I started looking at things, and I was looking at it as like, well, he's not like somebody else I'm gonna mention later in this episode that, hey, I'm getting out the way because my team's 70 fucking million over the goddamn salary cap, and there ain't shit else I can do. But they have enough cap space around. Estimated going into next year, they got 46 players signed with a cap space at around, I think around 7 to 10 million. So they can make some moves to improve the roster and probably, shuffle off a guy or two, open it back up to re-sign some other guys. So the Buccaneers are in a pretty good position. I'm sure Tom Brady doesn't want to go out the way he went out, losing a Matt Stafford. Yeah, was that Matt? I can't remember, but I know he doesn't want to go out with a loss like this. But then I also know he doesn't want to go out, like Peyton Manning went out, where it's like, yeah, bro, you only showed up for the Super Bowl, and in the Super Bowl, the defense carried you all the way through. People forget, yeah, Peyton Manning, yeah, he won a second Super Bowl in Denver, but Brock Osweiler won all them playoff games, and then he was just at the Super Bowl, just watching, being a participant. Oh, oh, yeah, I'm watching the game, and number 3 for San Francisco just dropped an easy pick, easy, like a punt return, just easy, just straight to him. Matt Stafford, what you doing, baby? But Tom Brady may or may not be leaving. Who knows what's gonna happen? Hopefully, honestly, I feel Tom Brady has been saying, he wants to play until he's 45, which would be an amazing thing to see. But also, next year's season he would be 45, and also now all of us are sort of at the point where we're like, now we just want him to play an extra season out of spite, and that would be glorious to see. Especially if he could somehow win another Super Bowl next year, doing that out of spite and getting Adam Schefter the fuck up out of here job wise, lovely, lovely. But go hit this quick commercial break, then come right back to you. Start moving through the rest of the topics that have happened in the sports world over the past week or two. During this brief intermission, I just wanted to remind all our listeners that we are available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and we also have a Twitter account where you guys can interact with us and catch up with us, see our ideas on some things happening between our podcast episodes. Links will always be down in the description. And now back to the action. Alright, so this is one of the stories that's like one of the weirdest twists of fate because it's one of those things where it's like, this just can't keep happening again and again to the Las Vegas Raiders. But let's just start from the front. Alright, so Joe Hayden, currently on the Steelers, he puts out a tweet, his season's over. At that point where it's like, hey, they're mathematically eliminated, you know, season's over. He was just sort of like, hey, all y'all players out there, be smart. Just get yourself a driver or a car service. Be safe. Don't drive yourselves if you're getting fucked up, having a good time. Just be safe. Take care of yourself. 48 hours later, little report comes about. Cornerback for the Las Vegas Raiders. Once again, this organization, Nate Hobbs, is arrested for a fucking DUI in Vegas. And it's just sort of like, bro, y'all done had John Gruden, y'all done had the other former cornerback for your team, like, devastatingly punching the shit out of his ex-girlfriend slash baby mama in front of his child. Like, I I don't even want to think about that video because it was damaging to me. Like, to hear some to hear somebody get hit that hard was crazy. But this is another Raider story. But this is one of those things where it's just sort of like, hey, one player is telling the rest of you players, hey, just be responsible for something simple. You just hire a driver, be good, be cool. and this motherfucker doesn't do it. And this is after Henry Ruggs. Like, Henry Ruggs was fucking batshit wasted. Killed a lady doing at least 150 on a neighborhood street, a neighborhood three-way street. And it's just one of those things where you sort of like, you would think every player on that team would be like, you know what? No drinking and driving. We don't want to, make it seem like the organization that drinks and drives and kills people. But here we are. And it's one of those things where it's just sort of like, I know. And then I had to look it up to reaffirm to myself, like, hey, a personal driver, a live-in one, costs around $50,000 to $75,000 a year. Can go up to around 125, depending on the city and how much you really need them driving around. But most of these NFL guys could be like, hey, just to be safe, I gotta hire myself a professional driver, someone who's basically there for me round the clock, live in, almost, maybe even make them a home aide, house aide, butler, maid, whatever. Be like, hey, I have one person whose job it is to be extremely responsible, who's not gonna drink, probably through a service and be like, we cool, but it's like Joe Hayden has pointed out something where it's like, hey, this is one thing you guys should not be getting in trouble for anymore. And it's just one of those things where it's just sort of like, stupid. And then for it to happen to this organization once again, stupid. But moving on, speaking about the Raiders, they have decided to hire Josh McDaniel. After Coach Rich, they didn't want to keep him around after he was able to somehow keep his team focused and moving forward. After the whole John Gruden fallout and Henry Ruggs situation, Derek Carr and Coach Rich and Max Crosby kept the offense, defense, special teams all together and be like, hey, we're a good team. We got a lot of shit going on. We can focus and make this fucking happen. And they came close. Last game of it, they came close. Wait, they did make the playoffs. They beat the Chargers to get into the playoffs. Lost first round, but hey, this is a great team making great moves. Excellent. But then also other news going around the NFL. Sean Payton out of nowhere decides he's going to step down from being Saints head coach. Not retiring from coaching. He said he just ain't going to be coaching the Saints next season and moving forward. Which is one of the funny things where it's just sort of like, hey, you play one season without a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you're like, I can't do this. What am I going to do? And it's like, that's some bitch made shit. It's like, bro, if you're a real coach, you don't need fucking Drew Brees in order to win and be viable. I mean, for some reason, you decided you want to Taysom Hill to be the future of your team, and that's just a dumb decision, Sean Payton. You're just dumb as fuck for that shit. Then, also, you need to talk to whoever the Saints fucking GM is needs to get fired goddamn immediately. There is no way in hell these motherfuckers should be 70 million over the salary cap for next year. Literally 70 million, and that's even before having to sign the rookie deals, which are automatically allowed to go over the salary cap, which will be probably around an extra 20 million on the salary cap. So these niggas are already virtually 90 million over the salary cap next season. That's just fucking insane. There ain't no luxury tax. This isn't a goddamn NBA or fucking MLB. Or just pay a nice little fine for going over. Like, no, this is a hard cap. How, as a GM, do you allow? You can't even say allow this to happen, because you did this. You the GM. You did it. It's you. But Sean Payton, wherever your next venture is, bro, good luck. Maybe go to college, pull a Nick Saban, build a nice little dynasty, have full control of everything. But hey, do what you must do, Sean Payton. And also, hey, bro, why you didn't have to have Kevin James play you in that dumb little biopic movie, which is actually a little funny, but you didn't have to put yourself into it. Do what you gotta do, bro. Make your way. But also in Saints news, Eli Apple has popped up once again on the radar, because he did make the game-winning play, catching the tip pass, and for the Bengals when they played the Bills to move. Wait, no, they did not play the Bills. They played the Titans, for the Bengals to beat the Titans in the division round of the playoffs. And then Eli Apple started popping hot shit on the internet. And boy, oh boy, one of the absolute worst cornerbacks we've seen in a while. Giants and Saints fans, the two former teams he played for, started going absolutely fucking in on him. I mean, they started bringing up the fact like, hey, this man has multiple years worth of Eli Apple getting burned compilations on YouTube. Like, he's notoriously not a good quarterback who somehow still gets work in the NFL. And then he started talking a lot. And then someone brought up past old rumors, which for the most part, in investigation you'll find to be true. But they used a fake video about his mom. How can I say this? The fake video was basically saying his mom is a nice glazed donut from Krispy Kreme, and they had a video attached to it. It was not his mom in the video, but considering all the other allegations put against his mom that also turned out to be true, they made his mom get off social media. She turned all her accounts off and private. It was this is real life cyberbullying, and Eli Apple caught the fucking brunt of it, and that shit is fucking crazy and hilarious. It's one of those things where it's sort of ask for cause to basically talk to people like you all pro cornerback when you barely making rosters and talking real spicy. You got two whole fan bases that hate you. Even the local news in New Orleans started writing articles about this man. Shit was crazy, and that was just funny to see. They went in, they went and let up off his ass. You got the Giants and Saints fan bases just going in on you, man. That's tough to do. That's real tough to do. But on to the next little story. We found out. I mean, we're watching the game right now. The Rams are currently playing, trying to survive, make it to the Super Bowl. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., and Von Miller, who are now both on the Rams, have been talking for a little minute about finally teaming up. You know, being good buddies. They want the team go get on the same team. But the one thing that came out was OBJ said to Von Miller, and Von Miller confirmed it because people have been speculating last year that OBJ told Von Miller, "Hey, don't come to Cleveland. This ain't it." And then people in Cleveland started to get pissy about it. It's like, bro, Odell Beckham Sr., his father, put together a whole highlight video of like, yo, Baker Mayfield's just ass and missing passes. And people kept saying, Odell's the problem in Cleveland. He's the problem. He drags teams down. I'm just like, given the date and history that you've seen, he don't drag no teams down. And he said it, and Odell said it before. He's not a problem on teams. He's only a problem on teams that are comfortable just losing. And that's what happened at the end of his tenure with the Giants, with Eli Manning. Everybody knew he wasn't able to make any deep throws or anything. And it was just like, oh, this is a hindrance to the team, but it's like, yeah, we're just going to keep him around and let him keep starting on some bullshit. He got out of there, and in Cleveland, Baker Mayfield's not that guy. He needs to stop having all these goddamn progressive commercials. Because we've seen and it's proven, yo, you're not that guy. It's literally the running game that's been saving that team. People shit on Jimmy Garoppolo for the running game basically being the focal point of San Francisco, but it's like, at least Jimmy Garoppolo can go out there and do it. I mean, he's very mercutial up and down. Like, he may have a bad throwing game or a good throwing game, but hey, we at least I feel more comfortable with Jimmy G in the pocket than I do with fucking Baker Mayfield. God damn it. Now on to the next thing. Another NFL story. I guess we stay. It's supposed to be college football focused podcast, but I guess we stay in here for the meantime in the NFL. So Broncos are looking to sell the team. Pat Bolin, the former owner, I mean technically sort of current owner, died 2019. He set up a three-person trust to be like, hey, if in the event I die, you guys are supposed to decide what to do with the team, whether to split up control amongst his 7 children, or to sell the team. Apparently, his three-person trustee board looked at his 7 children as like, bro, not nay one of y'all have the capabilities to run this team and keep this a winning organization or trying to win. I mean, they just fired Vic Fangio, but they've been stuttering and sputtering like right there at the lower end on the bubble, making the playoffs in and out. But even still, like the past 5, 6 seasons. So they're going a new direction. So owners, they're looking to sell this team, man. You know, looking at stats, basically they're saying currently the average price tag of an NFL team will be around 3.5 billion. 3.5 billion. Yeah, would it be? Big money, big bank. And so you're thinking, okay, of course, 3.5 average team. They estimate, you know, that the Broncos are around 3.8, but they're figuring more than likely the price tag will go above 4 billion, just because the NFL and just general sports team ownership is a very tight thing to get into. Not too many spots to get in there. Not too many teams are actually publicly traded like they are overseas with some of the teams. This is like, hey, you want ownership of a team? You're buying this outright, and there's only so many teams to go around, and there's enough billionaires who want to get into this fun little boys club of like, hey, we got hella money, we have fun, we all chat it up. We're all required to chat to one another. But we're gonna see what happens. But one name that did pop up, which is very interesting, was the CEO and founder of Vista Equity Partners, one Robert F. Smith, seen as being a potential buyer. And that's significant because he would make the first black owner in the NFL. And will also make the second minority owner after Shad Khan, who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shout out to Shad Khan. He's had some difficulties with his organization. He shouldn't have hired Urban Meyer, but that's nonetheless, there's growing pains to this business. But Robert F. Smith being a potential buyer is very big. Having a black owner in NFL is something that's very big, considering the league is about 60-70% African American. And Vista Equity Partners, they have about 80 billion in capital commitments as far as the value of that company and firm. So, hey, it could be done. He could do it. He could do it. That'll be very interesting to see. But things about this change in ownership and see what happens. It's tough to predict and tough to see what happens because it's sort of like I said, it's a small group. There's only so many teams to go around. It's like Pat Bolin, he bought the team in '84, so this team's been under the same ownership for almost 40 years now. So it's like this shit don't really change hands that often. So so Robert F. Smith might be out there wanting the opportunity, but it's like, yo, a lot of other guys are as well. The money's gonna be flying. The price tag, they say it's gonna go over 4 billion, but I think it might hit close to 5 billion. Just seeing in a free for all frenzy. Things could go crazy. Now let's move back down to where this podcast is supposed to be a little bit more focused on the college sports, but this isn't a good subject to get focused on, unfortunately. Recently, my alma mater, the University of Michigan, reached a settlement in a lawsuit about sexual abuse that came from one of the doctors slash trainers within the school and athletic department that looked over a lot of athletes. Dr. Robert E. Anderson worked there from 1966 to 2003. God damn it, a very long time. And the amount of complaints went over 1,000 different complaints filed against this man that have been racked up. People who are claiming sexual abuse. And from the looks of investigation, it seems like most of these claims are real and show documents that some of these claims were made back then and swept under the rug a little bit. And so schools paying out 490 million and possibly will go over that $500 million mark to pay out to the people who were affected by this. But that money only works out to be a little bit around 400, 450 a person. So people aren't making big money off of, hey, claiming they got sexually abused. This is one of those things where it's just sort of like people wanted to, say their story, say their piece, be heard, and hold the university culpable and make them responsible for like the actions they allowed to occur. Similar to the school up the road a little ways at Michigan State and the whole incidents they had with Larry Nassar and the United States Olympic gymnastics team and how he was allowed to operate and get away with abuse for about a 30-year period as well. And it's one of those things that's very sad to see, but it's good to know that the victims of these situations are being heard and getting some form of justice. Maybe not in the form that some of them want, but at least something's happening. There's damages being occurred to the university and people involved. Some people are getting fired, but that's a story that's out there in college sports that fortunate happens to my university, but a lot of universities out there, Title IX, which I'm about to talk about a little bit later, is related to that. And coming up on 50 years of Title IX, and we'll get more to that. But next, we got to talk about, unfortunately, one of the coaches that I like, one of the programs I like in college football, Arizona State. They had to let go of 4 assistant coaches for recruiting violations. It's very, very unfortunate. Herb Edwards has been putting together a very good program, steady program, bringing ASU back to its heydays back when they used to have Terrell Suggs and those guys playing there. And it's just unfortunate to see Herm Edwards in this program. And a very good offensive coordinator in Zach Hill being removed from the team for recruiting violations because, I mean, everyone cheats when it comes to recruiting, especially the goddamn SEC. Who knows the kind of shit Dave pulled off to steadily always get 5-star and 4-star recruits for damn near 2 decades. But Zach Hill and 3 others with him, their accusations are just in the lines of they were communicating with prospects and recruits during the non-recruiting and non-contact window. So were they breaking the rules? Yes. Were they like offering payments? No, it's not that. It's just, hey, you're talking to these guys when you're not supposed to be talking to these guys, and that's not good. But fortunately, Arizona State decided to make a very good hire and bring Brian Billick into the program. For those who don't know who Brian Billick is, he won the first Super Bowl of this millennium with the Baltimore Ravens. This is a man of a very good pedigree of coaching and seems to grow the coaches around him. Eight eight of his assistants during his tenure with Baltimore either became head coaches in the NFL at some point or college coaches or head coaches in college at some point. And considering, the staff of assistants and coaching this normally runs around 15, basically half of his staff came up. And Brian Billick, he's gonna be the assistant. Well, not the assistant to the head coach, but sort of more of like the mentor to the head coach, offensive analyst, basically the confidant to the head coach. So this will be a great thing to see what goes on with Herm Edwards and how he improves his program, even though he's facing a decent setback. And that's something to look forward to, because hey, things happen out west a little bit differently. Things are starting to look good. The rise of the Pac-12, rise of the Mountain West, they may take over. But I'm gonna get to commercial. We're gonna come back and we'll talk a little bit of tennis. During this brief intermission, I just wanted to remind all our listeners that we are available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and we also have a Twitter account where you guys can interact with us and catch up with us, see our ideas on some things happening between our podcast episodes. Links will always be down in the description. And now back to the action. Let's talk some tennis, baby. But before that, anyone who is also watching this Rams 49ers game, the progression of this play for the Rams to seal this game, crazy. Crazy, crazy. But let's get to this tennis, baby. Recently, one of the 4 majors of tennis, one of the Grand Slams, has occurred and just finished up. The Aussie Open, Australia, baby. Boys playing down under. Down under with the Thunder. And biggest story going into it and pervading through the whole thing was Novak Djokovic. This motherfucker. Refusing to get vaccinated. Just flat out refusing to get vaccinated. And decided not to abide by Australia's rules on vaccination. Because, anybody who knows about what's been going on with coronavirus and COVID and everything, Australia's been one of the tightest countries when it comes to it. Like, not even talking about people coming in our country, like if you move from one province in Australia into another province in Australia, they required you to quarantine. Like that's how tight and strict they have been. 'Cause they don't want that thing wrecking what they have over there. They don't want it running rampant through their population. Because they have a weird stat. It's something like 95% of the Australian population lives within like 10 miles of the coastline. So people are very tightly packed in over there. It's all coast. No one's in the outback, as you may want to think, but it's tightly packed over there. So they've been tight. And Novak thinking he's special. He can just not abide by their rules and just do what he wants to. And they said, hey yo, fuck all that, nigga. It's our rules. We're gonna deport you. Get your ass the fuck up out of here. And he kept on trying to appeal and try to get special consideration just because you play tennis. Like, bro, everybody got it vaccinated. Everybody else who's playing tennis, they vaccinated who are here for the Aussie Open. And he's like, but I'm number one in the world. I'm the best. I'm the greatest. Let me in. And it's like, nope. And so now he's missed this Australian Open now because he got deported and decided to fuck around and instead of just taking a shot. And now he gonna miss the next three after this because deportation rules in Australia is like if you have to get deported, bro, you are banned for the next 3 years from coming back. So, bro, you just missed out on big money. One of the four big yearly money makers for you, bro. Like you big stupid. And even stupider, bro, this man instead of just taking the vaccine, this nigga has an 80% stake in a biotech company up there in Siberia, Serbia, whatever. I don't know where the motherfucker's from. I really don't care. He's always been a jackass in tennis. I never liked the motherfucker. I really could do without him. Shout out to Roger Federer, my favorite of all time. But fuck Novak Djokovic. This nigga's buying. He's basically building a fucking vaccine. Instead of like, no, I'm making a treatment. Nigga, you making a fucking vaccine. Like, you gonna make a vaccine instead of just taking it when it's already made. You're just gonna waste your money. Waste your fucking money on some bullshit. Bro, you're really stupid, bro. Really fucking stupid. Like, come on. Do better. For real. Well, let's get back to celebrating the Aussie Open instead of talking about these dickheads around here. Let's talk about Ashley Barty. Let's get it. For those who are a little bit disjointed with tennis and pay attention a little bit casually, yo, she has been the number one women's tennis player since September 2019. Even though there were opportunities where she could have sort of lost it, because during COVID, the tennis rankings for men and women, global tennis rankings, they were frozen from March 2020 to September 2020. So, nice little 6 month period where it's like, hey, these rankings ain't changing. Even though some of y'all gonna be playing some tournaments and contests, hey, whatever you rank, you stay in ranked. It ain't changing. But came back when they opened the rankings back up, and she's still beating that ass, nigga. Ashley Barty on that ass. And, you got names out there. You got Naomi Osaka, Corey Goff, Sophia Kenin. For all us Americans, those are the ones we're paying attention to up there in the top 25 doing their thing. But Ashley Barty, she a bad bitch. You can't stop her. She going in. She taking names, numbers, all that shit, nigga. Like, she on that ass. And one thing I feel good about for her, not just being number one and getting the respect that she deserves, but it's like, bro, she's the first one. She's the first Aussie woman to win the Aussie Open in 44 years. You know it feels good. It always feels good to win like a big title, big championship. But when you win one at home, like, LeBron had fun winning those first couple championships in Miami. But that one in Cleveland, that one hit different. The one in LA don't hit like the one in Cleveland. Like when I won at home, feels good, good. So shout out to Ashley Barty. She out there winning, doing her thing, being unstoppable. But let's talk about someone who's super unstoppable. And now, I love Roger Federer to my goddamn core. I believe he's the greatest ever. But now only one man stands above the rest to make his fucking case. To make the case is like, hey, I'm the greatest that's ever played this game. And that is the big man, Rafael Nadal. He did it. He broke away from the pack. He won the Aussie Open, which now gives him 21 Grand Slam titles. That breaks his tie of being at 20 with Novak and Federer. Now he's in the lead. He's in front. And now also, because when it comes to these tennis guys, every guy has a surface that he's just the best playing on. So most of the time their Grand Slam titles comes on just that playing surface. But before this, Nadal had only won the Aussie Open once. This now makes two. And now puts him in even more rare air that Federer and Novak ain't in. He's now one of only four guys. I think, stadium's named after him. The Aussie Stadium named after Rod Lever is one of those guys I do know, and I think also maybe Pistol Pete Sampras, one of four. But Rafa and Rod Lever, I know those two for sure. They're two of the four who have won each one of the Grand Slams at least twice. So they know, like, yo, I know how to do this. I can do this on any surface. Clay, hard court, indoor court, grass, gets it in. And Rafael Nadal and Federer have always had a very tight relationship. Federer shot him out. He's like, "Hey, yo, that's my boy. He did it." But Rafael Nadal is going down. He might be the goat. I mean, technically, they say it's hard to know who's the goat because literally the three best players in men's tennis history, well, in the open era history. I'll describe that real quick a little bit. In the open era history, the three best is Novak, Federer, and Nadal. They have the most titles in the open era, and all of them played at the same time. And you also got Andy Murray down there, also having three down there on the list. Not too many guys have three. It's a short list of the guys three and up. And so they basically say when it comes to these four guys, Murray, Novak, you can throw in Roddick in there as well. Basically, out of these guys, if the rest of the guys were not born, the one guy who was born would have the men's record of winning the most Grand Slams by like a far stretch, like an insane stretch. They basically have double what Pistol Pete has. Think about it. Pistol Pete has 18. Each one of these got just Federer, Nadal, Novak alone. 20, 20, and 21. Like, god damn. Like, if these niggas aren't playing all at the same time to split this shit up with one another, the record, whoever was left alive, would have been set crazy, crazy. But that's not what we're going to get into for tennis. Maybe I'll talk about it again when the next major comes up. But just shout out to Ashley Barty, Rafael Nadal. They went out there, did some big wins. Both of them did some amazing things. And Aussie winning the Aussie, and Nadal, just setting the record. It's beautiful to see. But let's hit this commercial break real quick. During this brief intermission, I just wanted to remind all our listeners that we're available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and we also have a Twitter account where you guys can interact with us and catch up with us, see our ideas on some things happening between our podcast episodes. Links will always be down in the description. And now back to the action. I love women. I really do. I just love them. How about you? If you love women and you love sports and you love women's sports, you gotta love Title IX. One of probably the biggest pieces of equality documentation after people of my skin tone and color and history and ancestry getting some equal rights. It's probably the biggest piece of documentation when it comes to women's sports that gives them equality. And Candace Parker is doing a documentary on it on its 50th anniversary that's going to air during the men's and women's Final Four tournament on Title IX. Title IX, it's been 50 years of having Title IX, which means this thing dropped in 72. start treating women as equals in schools. I mean, most people just see Title IX for its sports application, but it also does apply to stuff that happens within just the schools in general. Making sure there's an equal amount of opportunity and looking out and sort of resources provided for the men and women who attend schools. Make sure there's an equal amount. I mean, the biggest thing that everybody knows about Title IX, but sort of also gets wrong, is that as far as the population of the school, as far as sports goes, there needs to be equal amount of sports playing opportunities amongst the genders for each season. But it has to be representative to the percentage of the population. So if women only make 25% of the school, for every three male sports available, there has to at least be one female sport available for the women's. And also, it works in vice versa. Most people don't know that. If a school is 75% girls, for every three girl sports available, there at least needs to be one male sport available. But it doesn't have to be on a sport by sport basis. Sometimes in certain areas it can be used as sort of on a, how can I say it, a personnel basis. Like, okay, you can have a few more girl sports teams available to make up for the fact, like football requires, a 60-man roster. It's not too many other sports that require 6 people on the team. Some do that, some don't. Some is just like, hey, when football's going on, there's no other male sports going on, so hey, let's have something. Like at my high school, we had women's field hockey, wasn't able to be joined in. But I like the fact that probably one of the biggest people in women's sports, Candace Parker, who's also killing it, being a TV analyst, killing it in the WNBA, just won a championship, is making a documentary looking at, how this legislation has affected women's rights in schools and protections, and moving forward in women's sports. But it sort of also comes on the heels of things not exactly looking the best in women's sports. I mean, Candace Parker's out there doing the goddamn thing, like doing the best, doing the most she can, but it's still sort of not enough. It's one of those things where sort of like everybody said it's like, hey, women's sports can only go as far as people invest into them. And I mean, I've seen it with women's soccer. The the women's players over the course of, starting with that first title for the World Cup, winning it in LA with Chastain and Mia Hamm, they put a lot of effort into, hey, let's try to make this sport better for us, but also globally. Because, like, if you look at the National Women's Soccer League, they got the best players from everywhere. You got you get the best Japanese players. You got the best European women's soccer players coming over. Even though a lot of them are joining the Premier League over there, and that's also being pushed as well too. It's sort of like a joint force of all these women coming together to push soccer and like putting the brand out there. And then dude, we even have Marta, the undisputable goat of women's soccer, playing in the National Women's Soccer League here in America. There's been a big investment, but the WNBA is sort of like not seeing that level of investment. Like, it's one of the weird things. Like, we in America, we have the assumption like, hey, the WNBA is the top women's basketball league. Like, we just think just because that's what the NBA is. But think about it. Think about it. Okay, the NBA basketball is a winter sport, not a fall sport. Football's a fall sport. NBA is a winter sport. It's played indoors in the winter because nobody wants to be outside playing in the outdoor sports. It's cold as fuck. But when does the WNBA play? Yeah, the WNBA is playing in the middle of the summer. That should tell you. That's the first thing that should tell everybody. Hey, the WNBA is sort of the minor league of women's basketball on a global scale, which it always has been. The MLS, Major League Soccer, and the WNBA are the same amount of years old, going on 26. I'm older than them. Like, that's crazy, right? So the WNBA just has not seen that level of investment put into it. I mean, at one point in time, the WNBA was a part of the NBA, and the baby was putting investment into the women's game, but That seems to have sort of stopped and then peeled back. And then recently, one of the weirdest, one of the things came up that I also had to investigate for myself. So Candace Parker being out there killing as a sports analyst, Sinead Ogumage also out there on ESPN killing as an analyst. You would think things being propped up WNBA is like, hey, we're gonna keep it pushing, pushing, pushing. Things going up. I mean, let's just talk about it. Okay. If I won Finals MVP in the NBA, sort of even in the same vein of Andre Iguodala doing that coming off the bench, you'd be able to go on NBA.com and buy his jersey at least for the next whole season. The WNBA doesn't have that. Kahleah Copper, also affectionately known as KFC, because, hey, like Too Short says, what's my favorite word? She has one too. The Finals MVP, and this is coming on the heels of her gracing the cover of Slam magazine, one of the most prominent basketball magazines, if not the highest level of basketball magazine. She's on the cover, and a lot of people were responding to it on Twitter and other social media. It's like, hey, how's she on the cover? But I can't go buy her jersey in a WNBA store. And it just sounded so ridiculous. So ridiculous. And then someone was like, hey, yo, out of the 140 plus players in the WNBA, you can only get 9 of their jerseys off the website. And I was like, yo, that has to be nuts. Completely nuts. And it was like, yeah, Candace Parker, she's the biggest face of the WNBA. And you can only get her All Star jersey, not just even her regular Chicago Sky jersey. I was like, yo, that's insane. So I was gonna look for myself. And these are the results. This is literally, if you go on a WNBA store and you wanted to buy one of these women's jerseys, these are the only women available and the version of their jerseys available. So let's get to it. Let's just get it cracking. All right, boom. Neko Gumake. You only have her Los Angeles Sparks jersey available. Next, let's go. Dewana Bonner. You have no. Oh, let me go back. Let me restart this. Dude. Neko Gumake. You only have her colored away jersey. Wait, how do they do it? I can't remember. You only have the colored Los Angeles Sparks jersey available for Neko Gumake. Dewana Bonner. You have All Star Team jersey, colored team jersey available. Elena Deladon. 3 different variations of her Washington Mystic jersey. All red, no white. Arike Ogumbawale. Only the All Star jersey available. Brianna Stewart. 2 variations of the Seattle Storm jersey, both color. You have what they call their Rebel rollout, which is a social justice jerseys. Brianna Stewart has one of those. Then All Star jersey. Liz Cambage, 1 All Star jersey, 1 team jersey. Aja Wilson, you got black team jersey, red team jersey, All Star jersey. Diana Taurasi, colored team jersey, All Star jersey. Brittany Griner, only the All Star jersey. Candace Parker, only the All Star jersey. Satu Sabale, only the All Star jersey. Betchane Laney, only the All Star jersey. Jonquel Jones, one of like the best ballers over the past 4 or 5 years for the Minnesota Lynx, only her All Star jersey. Kelsey Mitchell, only the dark Indiana jersey. Maya Moore has the Rebel Social Justice Warrior jersey, only has that available. You have Kennedy Carter, got the black ATL jersey. Sue Bird, color Seattle Storm jersey. And Sabrina Ionesco, got the green Liberty jersey, got the black Liberty jersey. But also the Green Liberty jersey, sort of part of that rubber rollout, has equality on the front. But that's it. These are the only ladies available to buy their jerseys. The rest of the jersey options you have are, hey, custom name, custom number. So basically, they make your own jersey for women who are in the league. Like, there's not even enough representation. Let me go back. If I went back through it, I should have counted before doing this, but probably that was 15 women. And not now, like someone said, but still just 15. Basically, only 10% of the league is represented in jerseys, which is crazy. Not even some teams of the 12 teams don't even have a single person represented on a jersey. But they did have something neat, which was another option available, but still limited as well. Something that the NBA has, WNBA has as well, with WNBA Jam jerseys, which sort of like the old arcade game, if you played it, NBA Jam. Same setup with the WNBA, except, two players from that team with some stat bars below it, their name and cartoonized versions of their faces. And that's the only way to get any of the available players anything that represents them. You can get a custom jersey, but the custom jersey costs $50 more than the jerseys that are already being sold with players' names on them. And that's just ridiculous. Like, why can't you at least 3 girls from each squad represented? Like, there have been so many hoopers and ballers in the WNBA, and they're being underrepresented, and the investment's like extremely low, and it's disappointing. It's like, how can you only have the All Star jersey of Candace Parker? How does she not have a Chicago Sky jersey in both home and away colors? It's it's insane. It's purely fucking insane. Like, you may hate hate or love women's sports, whichever side you fall on, but at least you gotta say it's insane that the face of your league only has an All Star jersey available that you sell, and that literally the MVP of your finals doesn't have a jersey on your website available. That's just purely insane. Shows a lack of investment and effort put into this league, which is why. Hey, let's keep it honest. All right, the max contract you can get in WNBA right now is only $175,000 as a player. The minimum contract you have to get paid if you play overseas in a EuroLeague recognized women's team is $100,000. Like, this, this WNBA is a shitty league of the women's basketball leagues, and it's fucked up. It shouldn't be that way. The NBA needs to be like, hey, yo, fuck all the shit y'all doing there. We're gonna take this shit over. We're gonna put a valuable investment in there. We're gonna have y'all play at the same time the men's do. Have y'all games fucking not simulcast, but have y'all as double headers, so y'all get the proper look y'all need because y'all proper hoopers. And we're gonna grow this league out. And we'll get the best players in the world, the same way we do with the NBA. But whoever's running the WNBA is not putting investment into this like these women deserve. And it's sad. It's just sad and it pisses me off. Cut the commercial, nigga. During this brief intermission, I just wanted to remind all our listeners that we're available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and we also have a Twitter account where you guys can interact with us and catch up with us, see our ideas on some things happening between our podcast episodes. Links will always be down in the description. And now back to the action. Let's talk some beat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up. Hey, UFC 270 was last weekend, and it was an excellent card, top to bottom. We got to see some sparks fly, some highlights. Got to see, got to see one young killer. I'm a keep my eye on. That's Marlon Moraes. He he did he had a great showing versus Trevin Giles, which shout out to Giles. Unfortunately, he lost, but hey, it was a good thing to see. But let's get to the fights on that card. Everybody showed up to see. We got to see fight number 3, what we thought could have possibly been a trilogy, but it's now going to be a saga. Brandon Moreno and Davidson Figueiredo put on another show for the goddamn ages. Them boys threw down for 5 rounds. They got fight tonight. They got their bonuses, baby. They earned them bonuses. It was a great fight to watch. I honestly could have scored it either way. I thought Moreno had done enough to retain the title, but maybe, maybe Dana White put the fix in. Say, hey, this is a close one. You judges, make Davis and Figueiredo the winner, which I could have scored it for Figueiredo as well. It was close. Figueiredo came back with the title after a grueling another fight between those two for 5 rounds. Think about it. These motherfuckers have gone what? 5 rounds twice, and I think Moreno won the last one in the second round. And now, because now that makes series 1-1-1. A tie, a win for Moreno, a win for Figueiredo. So you know what that means. We got a fourth fight coming up. And that's some craziness I don't think I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen anyone in UFC or Bellator, or, well, Pride's a little bit different. How they schedule things, they were a little crazy. But I don't think we've ever seen any two guys fight one another 4 times. Especially with this all being back to back to back like it is. Like they ain't fought nobody else. They just going at it. It's just them. This is gonna be great. I will definitely announce it on this podcast the next time those two are scheduled because you ain't gonna want to miss it. Trust me. If you got ESPN Plus or YouTube and you can find it available, go watch their other fights that are available currently. It's gonna take a minute before this one becomes available, but go watch the other stuff. You're gonna see some greatness. You're just gonna see a war. That was the first championship fight of UFC 270 last weekend. Then the one everybody really wanted to see, the big money, the reason why you buy the card. Francis Ngannou was able to defend his belt against probably the only person since a young Alistair Overeem that is that has had such crazy pliability and movement at heavyweight. He defeated Cyril Gahn, his old sparring and training partner back when, if you know Francis Ngannou's story, back when he finally made it to France and was becoming a kickboxer because they didn't teach boxing, but he wanted to be a boxer, being a kickboxer. Cyril Gahn was on that team before he made that transition to being MMA. And man, that was a great fight to see. You know, in every sport, every athlete has, if you're going to put them in the Hall of Fame or legend category, they have to have that legend moment where it's like when their back is up against the wall, or they just did some crazy shit. Just did some crazy that you've never seen, like John Jones, legendary moment. He opens up with a flying knee against Shogun Rua for the title. Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen takes him to the edge. Then out of nowhere, Anderson Silva pulls out a, a rubber guard to a triangle choke from the bottom and chokes out Chael Sonnen when he's losing the fight. You know, and this is Francis Ngannou's legendary moment. The first 2 rounds, Cyril Gahn was piecing up, just outstriking him, doing a thing. I mean, even at this point in time, it was announced after the fight. Francis had tore an MCL and damaged the ACL on one of his knees. So his movement wasn't that great. We thought the fight was going to stay on the outside, and Cyril Gahn was just going to do what he does, just keeps that athletic body doing what it does, and just pap, 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 piecing apart, piece by piece, looking like a middleweight the way he moves at 260. But then, round 3, Francis Ngannou picked that grown man up like he was a child and slammed him. Everybody knows, Francis comes from a boxing, kickboxing background, but we've seen Francis grapple before. But Francis, to make a legend, you gotta do legendary things. He went as deep as he could in his grappling bag for rounds 3, 4, and 5, and dug himself out of a 2-0 hole to win that fight and remain the champion. Just pure greatness. Pure greatness. From all us fight fans, we love this man. We love him. He's a great champion. He has a story that none of us could fathom surviving. And he's just a great guy overall. But now that you're talking, Francis has won. If you know anything that's going on in the UFC, talking, hey, Francis has won. We now got to be talking, hey, Francis needs his money. And that's something that has been going on and on in the UFC. It always just so happens to be these champions have beefs with Dana White. And recently, Francis and, God, it was, it may have been Nate or Nick Diaz years ago. And some of it's coming out as part of the lawsuit that fighters who tried to unionize have going against the UFC. That in each contract there's a champion clause. There's a championship clause that if you either win or retain the championship title on the last fight of your contract is automatically renewed for you to fight at the same price as a championship price that was in that last contract. It's automatically renewed for either a year or your next 3 fights, whichever takes longest to complete. And that's why it's always these championship fighters who get locked into these heated battles with the UFC and Dana White. Because things are set up in a way that it just does not benefit the fighters. It's basically a plot to keep all of their pay extremely low. I mean, as a business, you want to. I mean, yes, you want to keep worker pay low, but when it comes to sports, this the term used a lot is called revenue share, and it's how much of this product is basically the value comes from the people who are performing these athletic feats versus the organization that's been set up. And UFC's been grappling with it a very long time. I mean, if you're currently watching right now, I have the listed fighters pay from UFC 270. And if you're like, oh, how'd you get this? This is one of the few times it's out there because shout out to MMA Junkie. They requested it, as you can from any state athletic commission. Hey, what is the pay? What is the pay that came out from this event in your commission? That's your commission license. But unfortunately, UFC over the past 2 years has done some bullshit to basically say, hey, our what we pay our fighters is now a trade secret. So legally, you can't release it as an athletic commission. And basically, a lot of the commissions just been into that. Like, of course, the state of Nevada was like, cool. If you don't want it out there, it's not out there. But state of New York, same way. But the two states who don't go by that is California and Florida. You fight in those states, your shit's public information. How much you guys got paid. And Dana White and his feud with Francis Ngannou has been going on for a minute, has been building up because leading into this was fight 8 of an 8 fight contract that Francis Ngannou signed, which is crazy to think about. It goes against what is called the Ali Act that happened in boxing, which only applies to boxing, which is how MMA is a way to get away with some shady shit. In boxing, in America, you cannot sign someone to a contract longer than a year as a promoter. Every contract is on a year by year basis. You can't sign no one to any longer than a year or 3 fights, just so that abuse doesn't happen and that money isn't basically taken away from motherfuckers. Because a lot of shady shit happens in boxing. I mean, that's why it downturned. But this whole battle with Francis Ngannou has been playing out is a little reminiscent of shit that has happened over the course. It was like, hey, Dana has his guys that he likes and who's gonna pay. Then the rest of you guys are just chopped liver and food for ratings. And it's and people don't believe, but it's one of the weird things that came up is sort of like heading into UFC 270. People ask, hey, Dana White, who are your top 4 guys, your Mount Rushmore of guys who have fought in the UFC? Some of you may know some of the expected names on here. 3 to 4 expected names. You'd be like, yeah, they make it. The name number 4, you're gonna be like, what? And when I say the name that was left off, you're gonna be like, wait, what? So he had John Jones, all-time great. Most fight fans consider him undefeated, only because he got disqualified during a fight in New York, just because they banned. Apparently, in New York, you cannot do a 12-6 elbow on somebody. Yeah, you can't go straight up and down to elbow someone. They banned that, and he got DQ'd for doing that. Dumb shit. We consider John Jones one of the goats. Never lost a fight. You got John Jones up there. You got George St. Pierre, GSP. All world, all around talent. Striking, grappling, all of it. You have the man who's the sole reason why we say the term every fight starts on his feet. Anderson Silva, number 3. Big Anderson. No pack. But he'll smoke that pack on niggas. You got those 3. Then number fucking 4, he said Kamaru Usman, who I love. I love him. He's a great fighter. Great talent. Each fight you see him fight, he gets better. I mean, his wars he's had with Colby, hey, those are worth the price of pay-per-view, baby. Worth the fucking price. But, as I was just saying, Dana White has his guys that he likes. The rest of the guys is chopped liver. And the one guy who should have been on there, who we traded for Ben fucking Askren to ONE FC, is Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. And to understand, Mighty Mouse was tearing asses up. Mighty Mouse, in his time in the UFC, he went 15 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw. Goated. Like no one else in the UFC has a record like that, unless your name is Anderson Silva before he started taking too many fights, George St. Pierre, or John Jones. Like there's no other comparisons out there. Mighty Mouse is the goat of the lower weights. Couldn't be stopped. Matter of fact, as far as the record for title defenses, John Jones has 8, GSP 9. Silva is number 2 with 10 title defenses. Guess who's number 1 with 11? Goddamn Mighty Mouse. And Dana White left him off the list. And it's like, he's one of the best, one of the greats. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's just sort of like, hey, this long standing shit with the UFC of like, knowing there's guys who Dana is going to promote and be behind. Like, Dana loves Conor, let Conor get away with a lot of fucking dumb bullshit. Then there's guys who basically are like Mighty Mouse, or like a Khabib, who like basically have to earn their way through like, hey, I just have to stomp out the competition so drastically that it's like, you can't deny how good I am. I mean, you have guys, long-standing guys who are fan favorites, like Jeremy Stevens, who people love. He decided not to resign with UFC, and he's looking to go over to a rival organization at PFL. And also, before I move over to what some other organizations are doing, well, I mean, I am moving that way. ONE FC, March 26th. Hey, Rotdang versus Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse. 2 goats in combat sports. Then I have a mixed rules match, switching from Muay Thai to MMA between each round. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be something wonderful to see. If you want to see some great striking and grappling and just all around, hey, motherfuckers who are built different than everybody else have what probably will turn out to be more of an exhibition than full on combat. Hey, watch it. See 2 goats at work. You're gonna want to see that. But speaking of the other orgs and stuff they got going on besides ONE FC, shout out to the Professional Fighters League, or what all of us just call it PFL. They signed an extension. PFL is signed an extension with ESPN that at least through the 2023 season. So 2 more years of PFL is guaranteed to be on ESPN, and it's going to get more coverage and it's going to be on ESPN 1, ESPN 2. And not on their, sort of kickback channels like just straight ESPN Plus. They're going to get full coverage and be shown out there like a major product, which is great. Because PFL is also a nice league you can watch to see some of the young killers coming up. I mean, you got some former UFC guys such as Justin Gaethje, who came from PFL back when it was World Series of Fighting. But PFL is great. As far as one of the best women's fighters out there in the world, you have Kahleah Harris is coming back. The 3-time champion of PFL. She's not leaving. And now looking at PFL, there's been that jockeying back and forth like, hey, is she gonna go? Is she gonna go to UFC? Is she gonna come over? We need her to come fight Amanda Nunes. We need that matchup. And it's just sort of like, why should she leave? She makes more money fighting for PFL than Dana White could ever give her or ever promise her. Because Dana White and UFC, they're slime ball with the contracts. Kayla Harris, she knows, hey, if I'm the best motherfucking fighter in this org, I'm guaranteed $1 million at the end of the day. UFC ain't guaranteeing motherfuckers that. UFC is basically locked in all of their female champs and also lower weight champs as far as men's. Basically, if you're the best fighter, you're only gonna make $250,000 for that fight. That's the only thing you're guaranteed. Not even pay-per-view points. If you can get that, good, but you're only getting $250,000. Kayla Harris knows, hey, Kayla's getting about 100,000 per PFL fight before the playoffs, regular season fights. Then she's getting $1 million for taking it all. So yeah, that's better money, baby. And then PFL, they're filling out a very good roster. They have Kayla Harrison. Everybody, if you're a fight fan, you know her. They have Anthony Pettis, WEC champion, Strikeforce fighter, UFC fighter, long-standing. Everybody knows him. Good fan favorite that people love. They got who many people can consider to be probably the GOAT of women's boxing. They have Clarissa Shields under contract, at least also until the end of 2023. They signed her on last year to a 3-year deal. First year, she's purely showcase fights. This year, she's gonna be in the actual season, and if she makes it to the tournament, to the playoffs, that'll be fun to watch. You got Ray Cooper the third, just an all-out killer out there, and then you also have who the UFC just cut after he's been working there since 2007. You have Jeremy Stevens coming over. That should be some. That'll be great to see. PFL's filling out a very good home and a very good roster of fighters. It's gonna be lovely to see what they do in the future. Lovely to see. And not just PFL's out there, but Bellator and Eagle FC. You gotta talk about them. I mean, Bellator, Ryan Bader was able to defend his title, and now he's calling out one of the long-standing guys who we all know. He's calling out Shek Congo. He wants to fight that man again. Ryan Bader versus Shek Congo, running it back. Two very old names at heavyweight, just throwing down. That's gonna be if they make that happen, it'll be fucking must see TV. Also over at Bellator, Benson Henderson beats Islam Mamadov. And hands, Coach Khabib Nurmagomedov his first loss. Coach Khabib gets his first loss from one of the legends in Benson Henderson, fighting at lightweight in Strike Force and in UFC. What if you just truly don't watch UFC, the one thing you will know Ben Henderson from is that who I formerly mentioned, Anthony Pettis. If you've ever seen the video of a guy running across the cage and kicking another guy in the face, like on some ninja shit, that was in Strike Force. That was Anthony Pettis throwing the kick against Benson Henderson. Benson Henderson still ended up winning that fight, but if you think you don't know him, you know him. Khabib Nurmagomedov got his first loss as a coach, but what's also that's down point, but also an up point for him. Hey, Khabib's organization that he's, I think, president, CEO, maybe fighter personnel guy. I don't know what his actual title is, but he's very involved in Eagle FC. They had their first event in the U.S. and it went very well. Shout out to Khabib. I mean, all the fighters, most of the fighters in there are thanking him. Like, hey, thanks for the shot, whether you won or lost. They love. He's showing these fighters a great amount of love, trying to do better than the UFC does in treating the fighters. Even Khabib said, hey, UFC Bellator, watch how you treat your fighters, baby. Eagle FC is coming for them throats. And he really is. I mean, he even had UFC, Bellator, and PFL fighters in the crowd. You had people like uh, Kayla Harrison. You had one of the Diaz brothers was out there. Hey, fighters are watching other fighters and showing mad love. His first event, I mean, they mostly work. Eagle FC is mostly working through Europe. They have their first U.S. event, and it goes well. It goes very well. And also, surprisingly on Eagle FC that most people didn't know going into it, Sugar Rashad Evans, former light heavyweight champion of the UFC, fights on the Eagle FC card on a one fight deal. Sugar Rashad Evans in 2022 out here wins a whole ass fight, bro. Rashad Evans winning a fight in 2022 is not what you're gonna have in your 2022 bingo card. And in the month of January at that, straight from the start, hey, it's great. It's lovely to see. Lovely to see. And Khabib was looking at, hey, signing Rashad to a 3 fight deal. The future of MMA is looking bright. Things are getting more competitive. The other organizations that aren't the UFC are getting more viewership. Sherdog is getting the respect he's long deserved after UFC fucking blackballed him. Yo, the UFC blackballed of a lot of publications back then, especially unless either you only report the UFC or you say, or if you make a fight rankings, all your top 10 fighters or like top 5 have to be UFC guys, or we're not gonna let you come around and we're gonna blackball you out, basically shut you out. Some fucking craziness and foolishness that should never occurred. But because Sherdog was like, bro, we've had Pride. Pride has been the top. You know you're not the top. You don't even got all the Pride guys you would want. Sherdog stuck to his guns. And now we're seeing the fruits of that labor because, hey, the MMA world's expanding. People are watching everything that's out there. And hopefully things get better. And maybe the fighters will unionize. But that's enough for today when it comes to the MMA talk. That's going to be the end of the podcast. If you listen to here, hey, yo, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to get better, trying to save a little bit of money. I'm out here broke, might buy a better mic, so I sound a little bit more sexy. But until I'm sexy, you're going to have to fight through it with the quality of the audio. I appreciate you coming. Appreciate you showing up. This is Up Watching Hawaii podcast. I'm Ski Mask Murphy, and I thank you. You have a good day or good night whenever you listen to this. Peace. We are hosted live in the SayLess podcast Discord server. Shout out to the SayLess podcast of Kaz, Lowkey, and Rosy.
And we are also affiliated with the Otaku Fight Club podcast, hosted by yours truly.
And we are also affiliated with the Sips Tea podcast, hosted by Genesis and C Saint, a rapper and a battle rapper out of Buffalo, New York. All the links to everything described here in the bottom of the description.